Have you ever felt it? You're swimming in a sea of likes, DMs, and endless feeds, but you feel like you're drowning in loneliness. It's the great paradox of our time, right? How is it possible that we're more connected than ever, yet feel so deeply disconnected? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
To get it started, this quote from psychologist R.J. Starr really hits the nail on the head. See, being alone, that's just a physical state. It's not inherently bad. But being lonely, that's an emotional state. One is about where your body is, the other is about where your heart and mind are. And that's the distinction that changes everything.
And this isn't just a vague feeling, It's a full-blown crisis. We're hearing that Gen Z, the most digitally native generation in history, is also reporting the highest levels of loneliness. How does that even make sense? It just can't be a coincidence. So what is really going on here? Okay, so to really get a handle on this, we first need to get our terms straight. It is absolutely crucial to understand the difference between the pain of loneliness and the power of solitude, because believe me, they are worlds apart. All right, this slide breaks it down perfectly. On the left, you've got loneliness. This isn't about being by yourself in a room. It's that feeling of having no resonance. That sense that no one really gets you. It's an actual biological stressor. But then look at solitude on the right. That is a choice. It's a skill you can build, a way of being present with yourself that actually builds self-trust. It's a power, not a punishment. And this feeling of disconnection, it isn't happening in a bubble. It's part of a much bigger pattern of modern anxieties. Just take climate anxiety, for example. We're talking about a completely valid stress response to a very real, very massive threat. It just goes to show how these huge, systemic problems are affecting our inner lives on a daily basis. And our digital habits? They can pour gasoline on that fire through a behavior we're all a little too familiar with: doom scrolling. It's that weird compulsion to just keep swiping through bad news, even though it's making you feel terrible. It's a direct pipeline from our screens to our stress levels, feeding that sense of anxiety and helplessness.
So, how on earth did we get here? Well, social psychologist Jonathan Haidt points to this huge, sudden shift that he calls the Great Rewiring of Childhood. Let's dig into what that actually means.
Okay, just look at this timeline. It's staggering. For years, teen mental health stats were pretty much flat, stable. Then, right after smartphones really took off, between 2010 and 2015, the numbers for anxiety, depression, self-harm, they just explode. They shoot straight up. And this wasn't just in one country. It was a global phenomenon. The timing is just too precise to be a coincidence. And here's a direct consequence. Look at that drop. In less than 10 years, the time U.S. teens spent with their friends, actually face-to-face, plummeted by over 40%. That is a huge chunk of real-world social connection that has just vanished, and you can guess what replaced it. So Haidt boils this down to 4 big problems, what he calls the 4 foundational harms. You've got social deprivation, less real time with friends; sleep deprivation, because the phone is always in the bedroom; attention fragmentation, our focus is just shattered by endless notifications; and of course, addiction. These platforms are literally engineered to keep us hooked. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about what's happening on our screens. It's also about what's disappearing in the physical world all around us. It's leading to what you could call a modern war on both solitude and connection. And that's the critical question we have to ask ourselves. If we all put our phones down tomorrow, is the problem really solved? Or are there deeper, more structural things happening that are pushing us apart? This quote from a Reddit discussion just gets right to the heart of it. A user points out that socializing has been commodified. And just think about that. Where can young people just be together anymore without having to spend money? This idea of the vanishing third space, those places that aren't home and aren't work, is a massive piece of the puzzle. And when you put these ideas together, you see this perfect storm. Haidt talks about safetyism, this culture of overprotective parenting that's wiped out the kind of unsupervised, adventurous play that actually builds resilience. Combine that with the loss of those free third spaces and city designs that make it impossible for a kid to just bike over to a friend's house. The physical world itself has become harder to navigate socially. So, knowing all this, what do we do? It sounds pretty bleak, but the good news is we are not powerless. We can move from just diagnosing the problem to actively building resilience and reclaiming our own inner space. This is such a powerful way to reframe it. Instead of treating loneliness like a personal failure or a disease we have to cure, what if we saw it as a signal? A valuable message from deep inside telling us that a fundamental human need for connection, for meaning, isn't being met.
It's not a malfunction, it's a guide.
The great news is, we can actually learn the skill of healthy solitude. It starts with small things. Create a little ritual, some consistent alone time in your day, like a walk or journaling. Second, get embodied. Get out of your head and into your physical body. Cook something, stretch, just listen to your breath. Third, and this is the hardest one, learn to sit with those difficult feelings without immediately grabbing for a distraction. And finally, find agency. Turn that anxious energy into positive action. Volunteer, create something. That's how you transform helplessness into empowerment.
And so we'll end on this thought. Our world is screaming at us 24/7 to be available, to perform, to communicate. So maybe the most defiant, most healing thing any of us can do is to carve out the space to finally, truly listen to what's going on inside. What is your silence trying to tell you?